Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Between Two Hats with your hosts, Patrick Osman and Phillip Burton. Today, we are blessed with another amazing guest from the SFR space. This individual is a pioneer in the industry. He is currently serving as the VP of Construction at ILE Homes with a bunch of history and a bunch of knowledge to share with us today. Scott, my brother, welcome to Between Two Hats.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Scott.
We need to do this though, because we did this before the call. Let's just take our hats off for a minute and show how exciting this is that we got three beautiful bald brothers together on this call. So just wanted to make that point before we dig in.
Right. And I would like to just tell anybody who's listening, who is on their way to getting to where we're at, just give it up, man. Just join the club. It's worse when it's in between, man.
Okay, real talk here. And I try not to judge other people for any choices they make. But when I walk around or I'm out in public and I see that guy that's got the half moon, he's hanging on and he's combing it forward. There's like four hairs coming forward and he thinks that's fooling anyone. I'm like, I almost feel it's my mission as a bald guy to stop him and say, here's a bic, just take care of it. Like, come to the good side.
Yeah.
Really? You know, and if they invented this pill, I guess they're getting close, but if they invented a pill I could take and in the morning I have a full set of hair, I don't think I'd do it. I'm just total. It's easy and I'm good with it.
How long have you been shaving your head with a bic? Like, do you bic it?
Yeah. Probably. And then when you have the facial hair, it makes it a little quicker, right? Because you don't have to shave a lot of stuff, but probably when I was about 40.
Yep.
Yeah, 38, 40 is probably when I actually, everyone does it like you do, a number 2 and then a number 1. And then finally you're like, how does the razor thing work? And
you make your way down slowly.
Yeah.
What about you, Pat?
I started at 21.
Yeah. Okay.
But I had hair. Everything was fine. But I was going to a job interview and I was late to that job interview by 5 minutes. And I asked myself, why was I late? And this was because I gelled my freaking hair. So I shaved it. And ever since then, I'm still late, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Now
you buff your head with a bowling ball towel.
It suits, man. It works, dude. I haven't had hair in a long time. How about you, Phil?
Mine, I got to think. I want to make sure I get the dates right. I mean, I started shaving it 20 plus years ago, right? And I was hanging on. I have blonde towhead hair, and I actually have hair. Like if you rub my head, you can feel that it's just short hair there. But it was super fine. And I would spend forever trying to like get it the way I wanted it. And then if I went out in the wind or anything, it's gone, right? So I got tired of doing that and went down to the number 2 and just kept shaving it shorter. And then one day I just said, I'm going to bic it. And there's been a couple moments in my life where I went, oh man, why have I been waiting so long for this? And that is one I specifically remember. It's sort of like the beard too. I feel like it's always been me and I was fighting it and then I let it out. And the bald Phillip Burton is a whole different guy than the guy that was hanging on to his wispy coiffed hair. And I got a lot bigger. I think I ate that guy. Like I instantly gained 30 pounds, got bigger. I think my balls dropped finally. I became a man. And I'll never look back. And I will share this, though. It's kind of interesting. The thing I remember most that first night when I laid my head on my pillow, you're used to having a less frictionless environment, right? Because your hair is smoother on the pillow. If I'm saying that right, is smoother on the pillow. So you move around. That first night, there was much more friction. So my head is moving the pillow. Everything is stuck. And so it was an adjustment that first couple nights to realize this just feels different. Little things like that were interesting.
Yep. And you got to be concerned where the sun is all the time.
Oh my God. But thank God I wear a hat most of the time now. But yeah, Liz affectionately, when she's mad at me, she calls it the honey baked ham up there because it'll get all like sunburnt and splotched. She goes, it looks like one of those honey baked hams when it comes out of the oven. Thanks, babe. That's really helping the love life here. I'm really attracted to you too.
So, Scott, man, we've bumped into each other a few times in the industry. I know when you recently, when Bobby was in town, I had my first outing as a father with you guys. By the way, yes, Phil, it was Scott and Bobby that I had my first outing with.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, we had some scars, had some steaks, some great conversations. Conversations that I personally would love to share on this podcast. I don't know if you're open to them, but anyway, um, man, it's a pleasure to have you on this cast, and I just want to take a deeper dive into you, right, and your story, and how you broke into the SFR industry. I did some research on you, and found out some interesting stuff that you've done in your career, which we're going to take a deep dive into, and maybe we should start there actually. But I'll let you lead the way. So, I saw that, we had some affiliation with a publishing company in the past, and we saw that there was was it a chauffeur company
Yeah,
you were
limo
part of?
company.
A limo company, and then from
Yep.
there you bumped into the SFR industry, right?
Yep.
Give
I
us the
got
story. Give
right.
us the story, Scott.
I
Well,
like to say
start with the
like,
publishing. I thought that was cool when I read that too.
yeah. Well, actually, if I did it in order, when I got out of school, I really wasn't cut out for the 9 to 5 working for somebody corporate world. I can't really I can't really handle that with my personality. So I was looking for something to do, as an entrepreneur, as my own business. And so I always loved cars and I always loved limousines. Now this is in the late '80s, so limos were
Limos were
still
super cool. Super
right.
cool back
And I don't even see one now on the road hardly ever.
right.
But so I bought one limousine, and man, I lived in that limousine. I like slept in it. I'd go park outside the Anatole, wait for the doorman to give me a ride, get me a ride to the airport. And so just kind of did that right out of college and built it. I learned so much about it myself and about people, especially the limousine business, because I literally have met one of each kind of person. I mean, there are so many different people, but I really believe that in that business, I wish they had, the reality TV back then. It would have been a great TV show, kind of like
A
they
lot
have
of
the,
people would be out of business though. They'd never have gotten their start, right? Because they'd have ruined it in the back of that limo,
yeah,
probably.
yeah. But then I built it to be one of the biggest limousine companies in Dallas, and it was fun. And like I said, I learned a lot about myself. And from that, then we sold it. Uh, and then after that, my wife and I were like, well, what do we do now? So I was coaching youth hockey. And so and our son was, in like 7 or 8. And so we wanted to do something where we could give back. And we live in rural Texas, which is in Wise County. It's the county northwest of Tarrant County of Fort Worth. And so we called it Wise Youth Today. And it was a pretty cool concept where we had our readership would mail in pictures and stories so that kids could get recognition. Newspapers, everybody always liked to see their kid, and kids always like to see themselves in print, right? And sometimes just by seeing someone else's story, they could be, you know, uh, I guess, motivated by seeing another kid do something. And it was anything. It was from someone who was on the debating team to a sports to, FFA, whatever there was. And so that was really cool. It was a cool concept, but it was a market, basically advertising is how we made the money. And so all the local businesses would advertise in it. And it was a free piece, so we distributed it throughout the county. And then it was called Wise Youth Today. And that led to us doing Ice Times magazine, which was in all the ice rinks, because hockey was pretty big, especially after 1999 when the Stars won the cup. And so it was
Yeah.
pretty big. And they had quite a few ice rinks here, more than when I grew up in upstate New York. We had like 2 or 3 rinks, and they were only there in the winter. And here we had, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 rinks everywhere. And so we did that. And then unfortunately, my wife passed away from breast cancer in 2010. And she was pretty much the whole back office and everything. And I was just the ops person. And so right after that, I just kind of slowly sold the businesses out. And then I was just kind of hanging out doing nothing. And my cousin, who was just getting into the SFR business, called me and goes, I'm doing this thing. And this was 2012. I'm doing this thing. We're buying houses at the courthouse in Fort Worth. And I don't know if this is going to last a week, a month, a year. I don't know. And that was in 2012. And then
Wow.
from that time on, it was 643 Capital Management. My cousin is Gregor Watson. He's he's been in the industry for quite a long time. He's the one, he started Roofstock with Gary Beasley.
No kidding.
And he's still doing all that stuff. But that was kind of the most fun I've ever had in this industry back in the beginning, when we were literally buying 100 houses, a month, maybe sometimes 100 houses in 2 weeks, sometimes 25 houses in one day, like in the courthouse. And it was like Christmas. We'd buy these houses, and then we would go find out what we bought, because really we could
You're
only
buying them
drive.
sight unseen,
You
right?
you
Like
can't,
you're
yeah,
just
sight unseen, right?
Well, we could drive by them. I mean, and sometimes I would even knock on the door telling the people I lost my dog, and I think he might have got in your backyard. Is it okay if I look over your fence?
Way.
So some people would like, yeah, come on in, and some people wouldn't answer the door. But
By
if
the
it
way,
was
my dog is curious about your subfloor. Do you have any
yeah,
subfloor issues? My dog,
yeah.
he wants to
How old
root around in
Yeah,
the cellar for a minute. Yeah.
yeah, he likes to cool. So I was wondering if your air conditioner, how old that was.
You still have your copper plumbing? He was curious. Like, is it, yeah. Yeah.
But it worked. It worked sometimes, so it was kind of cool.
Oh my
Did
God, that's
you
so
did
funny.
you buy properties? Were they was it tax lien properties? Is that what they were?
Whatever was the court, on the courthouse. So whatever it was usually mostly banks. Yeah. And that was a trip in itself, whereas it was very unorganized, and I thought it wasn't really fair to whoever owned the houses, like the banks, because it was kind of hard to hear, and you'd be huddled around a group, and I had a list of houses and how high I could go, and these are like 60, 70, $80,000. And then it would say don't bid past 8,500, right? And so after a while you get to be known there, and then people would just wait till I stopped bidding. They knew I had to stop, but they knew that we did our homework, and so they could just outbid me by $100 or $1. And then
Wow.
they would do it. So then we figured out, well, I'll just get another person that's with me, and I'll stop bidding, but he can still take it another couple, $10,000. And then that way we were able to overcome that problem.
That's so crazy. Like, I remember going down to the steps of the courthouse here with some buddies that were doing that. And there were tribes, right? Everybody kind of knew what they were doing, and you could tell the ones that didn't. And those little games you'd have to play after it started getting a little more figured out, you had to be pretty ruthless to walk away with the deals.
Yeah, and it was tough. There were some cool things. One time someone was there bidding on their own house,
Oh,
and
that's sad.
everybody knew that, so we all let them bid, and nobody bid, so it was kind of cool. They got their house back. So
Wow.
that was kind of a cool little thing
That's
that we did.
insane.
And then
That's
one time our corporate office was in San Francisco, Oakland, and they brought down some corporate guy, and he wanted to bid on a house and do the whole thing. And then, but before the bidding started, a guy said to me, "Are you bidding on this house?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You don't want this house." I'm like, "Well, why don't I want this house?" So you always have to wonder, like, is he telling me the truth or whatever? But I felt like he was telling me the truth. So I told the guy, I said, maybe we don't want to bid on this house. He goes, "Well, we got the paperwork, we got the pictures." And I'm like, "I don't know, just thought I'd tell you." So we end up winning it. And then when we go and see it, it was in Arlington or something like that. And literally, it was a beautiful house from the front of the road. But if you go in the backyard, it was literally this far. I don't know. It was, let's say, 6 feet, my wingspan, from a total drop off into a ravine, like 40 feet. Like the house was only 6 feet from falling off the cliff. That was the only nightmare that we ever bought. Everything else you expect, like the house is full of, from a hoarder, or the house is
Yeah.
destroyed or whatever. But that was the only one that we couldn't overcome. So,
Wow.
But you ended up buying that house because the corporate guy was like, "Let's buy it."
yeah. So I'm like, okay, I just was telling you, there's a bad vibe. I got a bad
Yeah.
vibe.
What now?
But now we got it. So we kind of figured out a way to support it, and then put up a fence so the tenants couldn't go past. So, it was a 6-foot fence. So, and then told them
Beware
that,
of death.
yeah.
Wow. That's
So you
incredible.
at that time, you're all your previous history though. No construction, no blue
Well, my
collar
dad,
really.
first of all, as you know, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to be in this business, right? So it's a lot of common sense, right? And my dad is in construction, so I was always around construction, picking up construction sites, helping, always,
Yep.
doing the labor and learning a lot about it. So it wasn't really hard, and it's not like we were building a house, right? So renovations is just, it's a lot more simpler because you basically starting out with a house and then you're just, rebuilding it. And before that, when I was a kid, I was into cars and I was always rebuilding cars. So, and I use that analogy today that when we buy a house, it's like we're buying a used car and we have to fix it up with the idea that the person driving the car is going to be like my 16-year-old daughter or my 85-year-old mother. So it has to be safe, safe, health, safety, habitability, but it has to be safe and everything has to work and it has to function. And I always use that analogy when I'm trying to explain to the GCs or whoever my construction partner is that we have a specs and standards, but then also I also need them to think and raise their hand when something's wrong, and that I just don't want to be cheap or stay in budget and then provide something that's going to go wrong down the road. So like I said, it wasn't really hard to do. I always say it's not rocket surgery. It's a word that I got from hockey, but when you say something's not rocket surgery, it's real, like they always say
Yeah.
hockey's not rocket surgery.
It's pretty much
But
that easy, right?
yeah. And it
So you just
melts.
got a bunch of experience in construction behind you through actual hands-on, not a specific, tertiary qualification or anything like that. It's just like hands-on experience. I saw my dad do it. I've been around the block 1 or 2 times. You got your hands dirty with your cousin, and then after that, you pretty much solidified and formalized your career in the SFR space.
Yeah, and then I've rehabbed 5, 6, 7,000 houses, and after a while, you just learn by trial and error. And then, like I said, it's not simple once you figure it out on how to rehab a house that's going to be for rent, because the whole idea of the rehab is to minimize turns, so they're quick, and then also minimize repair and maintenance, so get all the big stuff out of the way. And then make sure there's not any moving issues, so it's nice and smooth.
What was the
Yeah, it's
biggest
such a
horror one of the
I
biggest
think
horror
the
stories that you've had?
critical the part that people get messed up on when they try to do it themselves, right? If you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy a couple homes and rehab them or reno them," they start to reno them to their taste, right? And to their specifications, and they overspend. They basically take all the cash flow out of it because they put too much into the upfront cost. So I think to your point earlier, having that discipline or that logic and reason to know that that's worth the repair, that isn't. This is what's going to help rent the house, this isn't. And you fix the things that you need to make it habitable because you want a nice product, but you don't need to put the crown jewels in there and over engineer everything. Just get it habitable, safe, comfortable, and rent ready.
And you have to appeal to the masses. You can't be painting weird colors. Everybody does the gray, but now everyone's kind of getting back into the more of the whitish, brownish
It
thing.
ebbs and flows. Yeah, we love it in the flooring business because everyone's like, "Oh, grays are so in. They're so neutral." Yep, they are until they aren't. And everyone that had put gray and silvers and all that in 5, 6, 7 years ago now want to go back to brown or earth
Yeah.
tone, and we're like,
Well,
"Bring
brush
it on."
nickel and then gold. It just
Yeah,
so,
switch it
but
out.
we changed a lot slower. Like, well, flooring is a big thing, right? Like, we don't have any carpet. I take all the carpet out. It's just a pain. It smells. Nobody takes care of it. It doesn't last really
It's
through one
disposable.
turn. Yeah. So I do keep carpet on stairs because I think it's a little safer. It only costs me like $300 on a turn to replace it, make it new. But
Yeah.
vinyl plank, man, I think it's the way to go.
So in our business, there isn't a lot of innovation, right? There hasn't been anything really new come out in the last 20 years that blew everybody's socks off, except for plank. Like LVP, the click and glue down planks really did change. And at the time for me, I was in multifamily turn and renovation, and it was because everyone's trying to put sheet vinyl down, right? And they came out with these 15-foot rolled goods, and they can cover the room without seams because you can only seam sheet vinyl together so many times and it doesn't really work well. And people were trying to sheet vinyl entire units and figure out where you drop your seams and how much waste you'd have. And it was just a nightmare. And, everyone thought this 15-foot rolled goods that, didn't have to glue down was amazing. And then glue down plank came out, and it was like, all right, baby, here we go. Because it really did change the game, and it was expensive in the beginning. And like all of those products, the market brings it down, and I can't imagine not doing it in a unit. If I had a bunch of money and I owned the property, some of the things that I own, I obviously would put porcelain tile down because it's indestructible. But you have some grout issues and things. But in our world,
Texas is a little tough. I don't like tile unless it's already there. I'm not going to tear it up. But then it's usually some funky designer color.
Why don't you like tile in Texas? What's that? Because I know nothing about this space, by the way.
Well, we have serious foundation problems.
You get a lot of cracking and settling.
Well, here we're built everything on a slab, right? And you go to Atlanta and you go to like Pittsburgh and some of the other places, they have basements or crawl spaces.
Okay.
Right. But here we have a slab, and if it moves a little bit and you have tile, it cracks and you can never match it. And the vinyl plank, obviously moves.
And
pull up a plank and replace it.
Yeah. What about wooden flooring? The old school wooden flooring.
Well, we don't, we buy houses in the night. We don't buy anything older than 90. And I think we're going to move it to 2000, but there are no wood floors anymore. Any of the houses we're buying, like, the starter type houses, there is no, when we were buying in Pittsburgh, man, we were buying I remember we bought a 120-year-old house, and it was built better than houses that are built in.
The craftsmanship.
I believe that.
Yeah. And the wood floors are still good. You can sand. It depends on the product. I'm not a hardwood, natural wood specialist, but you can sand and refinish those floors multiple times. So if you take care of a natural wood floor, it'll last you forever.
Yeah.
But the challenge is like Phoenix, right? Not a lot here because there's no humidity. It's really hard to keep your floors humidified here and have them last because the dry heat just runs them out. So,
well, we were buying in Phoenix for a while, and it was pretty much what I saw was everything was a tile floor, which I love.
Saltillo tile, the cheap Mexican tile, and
then the stucco houses, those are great, man. Those are indestructible.
And the other part of that too for us is the labor, right? So tile, and that ebbs and flows, but tile labor here in Arizona was cheap forever because all these guys were tile installers, and you could get, you could throw a stick out and find 10 guys that want to install tile. But tile is messy. It's labor intensive. You got your cuts. It's heavy. You got to carry it up and down all that stuff. And then plank came out, and all these tile guys are like, screw that. I'm going to start installing plank. I get paid a little bit less, but I can do twice as much in a day. It's not heavy. I don't have grouts. And so all this plank started coming out, and the tile guys disappeared. So now tile's kind of coming back, and we can't find enough guys to do it. And the market's gone up. So just throwing interesting numbers out, back in the day, you could find an installer to put in 12 by 12 ceramic tile for $1 a foot. You're lucky if you get $250 a foot now to what we pay them, and then we got to mark it up to the customer. So it's that market's changed a lot, but it'll come back.
What's Phil, in your business, are you guys now, are you seeing an increase in tile business?
Some companies are asking for it. We've got some partners that, to our conversation before, have seen the light of if they're going to own the property long term, tile can be a great solution. It's a 5x upfront cost to plank roughly, but it is going to outlast. You're not going to replace that tile. You might have some grout issues, some cleaning, stuff like that, some broken tiles. So some companies look at that, but for the most part, what we deal with is a reno, and they want to match the tile because they want to do a repair, or they don't want to tear it up. They just want to, continue it into a living room. And to Scott's point, that tile manufacturers do it on purpose. They discontinue their styles every 4 or 5 years. So you have to you got to replace it for us. They kind of do it for us. I think they don't say they do, but whatever. So if you have to match that tile, you're never going to match it if it's 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Scott, at the moment, ILE Homes, are you guys actively purchasing properties? And if so, where are you guys looking at properties?
Nope, not right now. We're pretty much on pause. We have a couple portfolios with other uh, venture partners, and right now we're working on closing a few other investor deals to build some other portfolios. Uh, for some other investors. I mean, that's basically what we do is just a turnkey operator for investors. And right now we
But
have a lot of
you guys do not manage, correct?
no, we handle the whole portfolio, but we do sub out to third party property managers.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Are
we
you
have
doing new construction as well? Are you building BTR?
no, we buy BTR.
Okay.
And what we do is kind of I think kind of smart, and especially now because I feel like a lot of builders have some inventory. And so at the end of the month, we have some agreements with some builders that, hey, do you have 4 or 5 houses? Or they'll call and say, we have we have 5 houses in Atlanta in this neighborhood that we would love to sell to you. And we get them for a pretty good discount. And so we'll take, we'll buy finished BTRs, but we're not partnering
Yeah.
in the building of the neighborhood.
So you're building up your when it's slow acquisition, you're buying BTR stuff like that for the scattered site, older home reno stuff. You got to wait for interest rates to come down, some other things, and then you'll start buying again. Is that still part of your
Mhm.
plan as the market will allow? You still want to buy scattered site and
Oh
add to
yeah.
your portfolio?
Yep. It's it's like everybody's on pause, and I think it'll probably be tough once it starts because I think it'll be like dominoes, and everybody will start up, and there'll be a shortage of getting folks to some GCs or some subs out there to do it. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I'm really working hard on my relationships and keeping those relationships and keeping the the people that I have long-term relationship with busy with turns. And then I do have a lot of rehab still because we bought a lot of houses 2 or 3 years ago that were tips. With the tenant was there when we bought it and they never left. And then they do eventually leave. We call them tips. And we still have the money that we set aside, although obviously uh, the scope will have changed and prices will have went up. And so I'm always over budget on tips, but everyone's cool with it because we've rented the house for 2 or 3 years without really
Yeah.
putting any big ticket items into it.
So and maybe we're going back a little bit. When you started ILE Homes, right? You you just did this as a connection because of the courthouse stuff, and then you started evolving into the reno side and just cutting your teeth on that. What is it about that business that you love so much, right? Like what's kept because the other businesses, it sounds like as a serial entrepreneur, you build them, you kind of sell them. Obviously, losing your wife was the impetus of probably shutting down the publishing company, which obviously is out of your control, and sorry for that loss. But with this business, it sounds like it's got more teeth for you. You're kind of you're more invested in it personally, maybe. What is it about this one that keeps you going?
Well, technically, I when I was working for 643 Capital Management, that's where I learned everything. That kind of we were building for we were buying for Starwood, and we actually bought for Colony. We were buying lots of houses, so I learned a lot about that. And so then we had this one portfolio that was about 6,000 houses, and then we decided to take property management in house, and so we did that with like a 6,000, and then we actually made Street Lane Homes. Uh, it's a property management company. I'm not sure what their situation is now. And so we own 643 Capital Management, I believe, owned Street Lane along with our investor. And then we bought our investor out. And then 643 Homes, the people that started that, my cousin Gregor, uh, they started Roofstock. And then Roofstock kind of bought out and owned Street Lane.
Gotcha.
And I guess I went from 643 to uh, Street Lane to Roofstock, and then during COVID, things were getting kind of slowing down. And I've always been really good friends with Jay McKee, who started.
Yeah, I saw the lesson component there. I was curious. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, and
How
so
did you know Jay from before though? Like
from
connect me there.
Colony. So from Colony,
Okay.
I think he started Colony, and then he had a construction company. Can't remember the name of it, and that's how I met him through that. And he was always a great guy, and I always learned a lot from him. And he said, "Well, I'm starting this company, Lesson," and I said, "Well, I'd be interested in doing that." So I kind of left. Not kind of, I did. I left um, Roofstock and started with Lesson. But while I was at Lesson, a friend of, or actually my partner. It's fun. That's a funny story. My partner in life is named Tony with an I, and sometimes the Mahesh, the guy that is the CEO of ILE, he knows Tony, and Tony introduced me to Mahesh, and that's how I got ILE. He was starting up ILE, and then when Mahesh introduces me for the past few years, he says, "Oh, I met him through his partner Tony." So it kind of sounds like Tony's not a Tony's a guy. So I always
Yeah. Hey,
so
very
sometimes
progressive and woke. It's fine. We're fine.
yeah. So I'm not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm not. So
Yeah.
uh, and but anyways, she
There is so
induced.
much I want to say right now. There is. Oh, I've
Yeah,
got
I have a
so
lot of
much.
train
We
stuff
can
like
we
that.
can play with that so much,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna get in
So
trouble.
he I met him, for lunch, and he was starting up ILE, and he said what he wanted to do, and I said, well, I'm working with Lesson, but if you get it going and you get it off the ground, I would love to be a part of something where I can be more of a part of it than just where I have been an employee in all the other ones. So he did raise the money, and then he started and got ILE off the ground, and I think that was in 2021, and I've just been here ever since. And we started with no houses and bought the first house, and bought hundreds and hundreds of homes for different built different portfolios. And now, like I said, we're just managing the portfolios.
When did
What's that
Mahesh join the
relationship like
journey?
with Mahesh? Mahesh, right?
Yeah.
It's Mahesh. Sorry. So he's kind of the money guy and the driver behind getting the capital, and then you're the operations guy.
Well, that's how we started out. He comes from a banking and accounting. He's been CFO of really big billion-dollar companies.
Gotcha.
So he has a lot of connections, raising money and all that. And I just have the knowledge of the industry and how to take the houses that we buy and then making them useful, assets for renting. And so that's kind of the way we've done it. And then we've grown from there. But Mahesh is it totally. I've learned so much from him. I really didn't know a lot about a lot of different parts of the business, from the raising the money to the asset management part of it, and then all the other parts. I was really just, hey, buy the house and give it to me, and we'll take it
Yeah,
from
I'll
there.
turn it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so now I've gotten the opportunity through Mahesh, because he makes sure that you get involved and you understand. I mean, every month we have a meeting. We go over where every penny went and where we are. We have a big finance meeting. Our CEO that's not here any longer, he called it Fun with Finance, because he's trying to make accounting fun. Which
Yeah.
I took two classes that were required, for my degree, and that's how I decided I didn't want to be in accounting.
Right.
Right. So, because I'm not, and then it's kind of a running joke here that if there's an accounting problem, they come down to my office in the corner down here, and Scott will straighten it out. Because I always say, like, what's the big deal with a decimal or a zero? I don't understand why
Just
you guys
move
are
it. Yeah, just
hyped.
fix it. It's fine.
Where
that
so ILE Homes runs $8,000, correct?
No, well, we over the year, buying them and managing them and coming and going. Right now we probably don't have that many or close to that many doors. We are what do you call it when you're selling them?
dispoing.
Dispoing. Sorry, I give mental blocks. But yeah, we're dispoing houses now. That's something I've never done before. We've been doing that for probably over a year now. One-offs,
Yeah.
MLS. So that's totally different. where I want to strangle people, because we're like, well, here's the house for sale. And then I've learned one good thing that I've learned is so I fix the house up. They give me a budget that's, not really right. And I'm always go over the budget, but it's always around 10 grand, I think, because the houses have already been rehabbed 2, 3, 4 years ago. So
Sure.
they're not bad. So I think we're averaging like 10 grand. But then, we have a buyer eventually, it goes into contract. And then it seems like the buyer's agent uses the the period where they can do their
Inspection,
their
like the
inspections
Pinzer
and
and
stuff.
inspection.
They
Yeah.
use that as another negotiation period.
Always.
And I
always
get this stupid list of from one thing to
fix
another.
this, fix that, fix this, fix
So
that,
what I think
replace this,
I'm
replace that.
right, I think what I want to start to do is have the house inspected first by a third party inspector, and then just disclose all the problems, and then set the price accordingly, and then disclose it so that in the front end say, here's the house,
This is
here's the
what it
price,
is.
here's what's wrong with it. You're not going to find anything else wrong with it. This is the price. And that based on what we've already called out what's wrong with it. Like if it does have it does need a roof. Like I can put the roof on, or we priced it with the roof that's on it now. Right.
Yep.
And then there's
You're
really,
buying a
it takes
used
away the
product too. That's what
negotiation.
frustrates me. You're buying a used product. When you're buying a home, it's used. It's not brand new. And when they come back with those inspection reports, I just went through this on a personal home. I was selling a cabin that I had up north, and it got into contract. Their inspector went out, came back with some things. It wasn't that big of a deal. Some minor stuff. We agreed on a price, like just to discount it because I didn't want to fix them. And then it fell through. They backed out. They had some finance issues. Went right away, got another offer on it, and they wanted a different inspection. I said, just use that last one. I'll just agree to those. Oh, no, they need their own. I'm like, okay. That inspector comes out, doesn't even touch on any one of those other things that they did, and has their own set of things.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that could justify
wait a
it.
minute. And we went through it 3 times. That second person bailed, couldn't qualify. And then the third one, and by that third one, I learned the lesson. I said, here, I told my realtor, show them these first 2 inspections. Outside of this, I won't agree to anything. And here's the number. It's non-negotiable at this point. If they don't
Yeah.
want to continue to look at the home, go for it. I'm done.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
it's a nightmare.
No. Well, I'm not used to dealing with retail with MLS, right? I'm just
Yeah.
used to dealing with other investors. They go and look at 10 of the houses. We're going to sell 10 houses. We're going to sell 50 houses. And they go out and look at them, and they come up with their CapEx, and then they just go back and forth and they buy it. But here, retail, you're dealing with a bank, and then maybe they have to have certain things fixed in order to get the loan. So I wasn't used to that. So I
And you're
learned a
dealing with
lot.
emotions. The buyers, they're emotionally connected to that staircase, and they'd like it, whatever. I want it to look different, like
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm glad
interesting.
that world, that retail world, in our business too, on the flooring side, retail flooring is interesting. I worked for a big company before this, and they did a lot of what we call retail flooring, where we sold directly to the home builder. It wasn't true retail selling in a box store or at a storefront, but we did design colorization for new home construction. And it's a similar deal because they sell these homes, and then you've got these husbands and wives that come in and they want to upgrade, and the nightmare you have to go through to get the colors and the products and the upgrades. But that's where a lot of the money is. That's the real revenue in flooring. What we do is very production based. The margins are low. It's volume driven. But on the builder side, it's, upgrading to the crown jewels. You actually lose money. I'm sure this is still the case. If you're going to work with a major home builder in the US, the base flooring that you bid with the home that you put in, we lose on that if you don't upgrade as a home buyer. The builder expects us to give them that floor for free, basically. So if you don't upgrade at all, we're ended up giving you free flooring. We take it in the shorts. Now, when we upgrade, obviously the margins are higher and we make money. But it's a racket, man.
For someone in the construction space or in the SFR space, they are looking at acquiring properties. What's some golden nuggets that you can share with them right now if they're watching this video?
That's a great question.
As far as rehabbing a house or buying a house or what?
Yeah, so both, right? So when buying a house, obviously you're going to rehab it, or minimal touch-ups depending on what you're trying to do. But obviously, as the SFR industry grows, companies are acquiring more and more property. What should they be looking for? Outside of the basics, right? The roof, the air conditioning, the foundation. What's the
Well,
sneaky thing that can come and punch you in the face 6 months in?
well, it's funny. First of all, people they want to build a portfolio. The more houses you can buy, like 10 houses, the better, because if you bought 10 houses, you're probably gonna uh, lose on 2 of them because you made a mistake on the front end, and then a couple of them you're gonna break even on, and then the other ones. So if you were just gonna buy one and for a rent house, it's kind of hard because you can make mistakes. But what I've learned from the front, for right now, I wouldn't buy anything. I wouldn't, uh, but I would want to get newer houses, like newer being like 2090s at the latest, right? You can get the older houses, but then you run into, the cast iron sewer
Pipe.
system, which is going to be a problem. You run into some other weird stuff uh, as far as when they did that weird plumbing stuff that leaks now. So if you go with 1990 or 2000, or a funky uh, electrical panels that catch on fire, or their recalls and all that stuff. So we've gotten past all that stuff when you get to the 90s, and so that, and then I actually have really long relationships with GCs that they know my specs and standards, and we don't walk the house. The GC walks the house, and so we have a red flag list of things that are red flags. Because, of course, the broker we're using just wants to sell us the house. They do have our best interest in mind because they want a long-term relationship, but then they also want to feed their kids and they want us to buy the house. So you have to really watch out for yourself. So we have a red flag list of, like, uh, we call it pride in ownership in the neighborhood. Like, the neighbors are proud of their houses, because you can't live next door to a guy that's fixing cars in his front yard. Even
Right.
though our house is great, it's still going to affect our rentability. You don't want to be on a train track or a power line, or we would say backed up to retail. Like, you don't want a 7-Eleven on the other side in your backyard. And we really didn't want to be by multifamily, right? Because it kind of tends to not be a great neighborhood sometimes when you have a lot of people running around, and people are trying to get away from that if they're renting, SFR stuff. So you, and the other big thing is, you don't really have to know that much about the roof and about the HVAC and about the appliances, because if they're, we have age limits. Like, if it's 7 years old, the HVAC, we're just replacing it. So we don't need to inspect it. And usually they're original, they're 10 years old or 15 years old. So we don't have to waste our time figuring out if it's going to work. We just build it in to the scope, to the CapEx. And the roofs are the biggest challenge, because what a new roof looks like, and you know what an old roof looks like, but it's that one in the middle. Is it going to last? I would say we would want it to last and look like it's, going to last at least 5 years. And 3 tabs roofs, I think they call them 20-year roofs, but they really only last 10. And then the 30-year roofs, they really only last 15 or 20, right? So
I
roofs.
got a question on roofing, just while we're on roofing, right? Being born and raised in Australia, every roof in Australia has terracotta tiles, right? They're just all over the
Has
shop.
what?
Terracotta
Yeah, I
tiles.
don't think your mic's on.
You can't hear me?
I'm hearing
What?
you through your computer, I think, not your mic.
All right, nice. Let me address
There you
that
go.
real
There's your
quick.
mic.
Anyway, in Australia, we have terracotta tiles for all properties. When I moved to America, I saw, especially in Texas, it's all like that, the shingle material, whatever it
Asphalt.
is.
Yeah.
That asphalt, yeah. Why? Why is that a popular
Well, first of all,
roofing?
terracotta is expensive, and you see that in Phoenix, and then you do see that in Florida. It's just really, really expensive, and it's really expensive to fix, right? So houses we're buying, usually they're older, and we're going to be fixing them, and it's very expensive. So yeah, it would be great, but we always buy, around outside the beltway of all the big cities, outside Atlanta, outside Houston, outside Dallas.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of the old starter homes, right? From the 80s and 90s. And custom houses are the ones that use that. So it's more of something that's more expensive, and it would be at a higher end house. Whereas in Phoenix, they used it a lot. I mean, I think almost all the houses that we were buying way back 10 years ago, they
It's all
had that.
terracotta. Yeah.
And so it was nice, but it would be expensive to fix.
When you're buying a home as an institutional investor and owner, in a group or whatever, do the warranties on the roofs that came, the person that did that original roof, does that warranty transfer to you? Can you go back to that manufacturer as the second owner and affect
Yeah.
a warranty?
Yeah. I don't even waste any time on that because you just as you buy, you have to be able to look at the roof and see, like I said, it's a good roof, it's a bad roof, and if you're not sure, then just throw it into
To
scope,
the cost,
and then
yeah.
maybe you don't spend the money and you come under budget. But if you're not sure on the roof, or you literally do have someone look, if you have time, depending on your due diligence period, then have a roofer look at it, a roofer that you work with, not someone that wants to sell you a new roof.
Yeah, someone on
Right.
your team that you trust.
And I say, look, just give me your professional opinion. Is this roof fine? And would it last 5 years? And then the other thing is the insurance thing. That ain't going to work because our insurance is 15,000 deductible on our houses. So that's a
Yeah.
roof. So, people say, well, we'll just wait for a hailstorm or a hurricane. I'm like, it won't matter. We'll still be
Yeah.
paying for it for ourselves.
What
I wish
about
they would.
when you guys are doing your interior scoping or your review, like you have your GCs go look at the home inside after you bought it, right? This is all after, and you're doing your scope.
No, I actually have them do the scope for me so I can hold them to it. Right.
Okay, so the GC that's going to do the repairs, they scope it for you. Do they use LiDAR or any of that kind of stuff? Are they using those 3D scans, or is this all just, they're walking in, eyeballing it, they have
I
the
don't,
experience?
we just do it old school.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing, there is nothing that you can't fix. And there's very few things you can't see. Right.
Right.
The worst thing that can happen in Texas is you underestimated there's a foundation problem. Right. You think it's a $3,000 problem and it's a $12,000 problem, which also grows. So we wouldn't buy. I do have, if there was a foundation problem, I could obviously see. I do have a foundation company come look at it. So I wouldn't just guess on the foundation. You can guess and see. You can guess the severity of it.
Gotcha.
But you got to have a good relationship again with a company that's been around a long time. And because there's a million of them out there, but you got to have really good long-term, or build a long-term, or get referred to somebody. Like if you called me, I would give you the name of a company that they have gone and said, Scott, you're fine. Right. When they if someone you didn't know, they would find something wrong with it. Right. But foundations, there's nothing you can't overcome.
Yeah.
The
Well, it just
mistake
takes
you can
money.
make.
It's that pesky little thing called money.
Well, the important part is to include it. Like when we get a house, they'll find a house and they'll give it a CapEx based on pictures and based on disclosures, and they'll say, okay, it has a $32,000 CapEx, and so I go out there knowing that I have $32,000 to bring this house up to our spec, and put it on the market. And sometimes we're below 32, and sometimes we'd be above 32.
Yeah.
And if we're above 32, it's a question of, does the seller want to, like now we're at 42. So we're $10,000 off of what we offered you. We either have to lower our offer by 10,000, or you have to, give us the 10,000.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
back in the day, it was easy, but sometimes now they're like, no, it is what it is. You're not buying the house.
Yeah. When
And
it's a
so
buyer's
that's what-
market or a seller's market, obviously
Right.
that determines, what you guys can do there. It's such a shell game too, right? Because it ebbs and flows over time in the markets, and sometimes it goes your way and you've got the upper hand, and the other times it's, the buy or the sellers rather have the upper hand. And that's probably why everything's on hold too now, right? Because it has been a seller's market, in essence, because, people aren't, well, the people aren't buying as many homes because the market isn't good for them right now. So these sellers are kind of stuck too, right?
Right. And when we started in this, nobody really knew what we're doing. The whole industry, SFR industry, was like invented in like 2010. It didn't even exist. Right.
Yeah.
And so We would
Go
hire
to any
GC.
NRHC meeting and talk to Dave Singlet, and he'll tell you the story of how they wrote it on the back of a napkin, right? Like that's the famous story.
Yeah, like how Southwest Airlines was invented with Herb Kelleher on
Yep.
a napkin. His was like a bar napkin though. But
Right.
um, when we used to get bids, it was like interior $20,000, exterior $12,000, and that was like the whole bid. And
Yeah.
now we get like 60 line items. I have to have every line item because then you're getting good pricing, and you can't just like bury some cost somewhere. So we've kind of made the GCs better also. And it used to be like, oh yeah, we'll get the bid back to you in 3 days. Now it's like, hey, tomorrow I have a house at noon. I need you to be there at noon. They get there, and then I would love to have the bid back today. But
Yeah.
worst case, I need it by noon tomorrow. And then they do it, right? And so there's some really good guys that have been doing it a long time. And the pricing's a big thing right now. I'm going through a big thing on that. There's a company called Blue Book. They do pricing nationwide. They break it down by material and labor, and it's good pricing. So I have
They're a GC?
no,
They're a
they're
GC?
a software company,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
and they do research through all the big box companies on how much a flush mount should cost. Like they do Lowe's and they do all these, Home Depots, and they're like a flush mount, basic flush mount, two light flush mounts should cost $12, let's say.
Gotcha. So it's like the orbits, or yeah, they're giving you the basic breakdown of what all those costs are by product across all markets.
Yeah, but they're more understanding our rates. Like Xactimate is more of like an insurance thing where I
Yeah.
love it when I have I had a really bad storm come through and hurt my roof and a tree fell down and did damage. And I love it when the insurance company sends this guy, and I go, "What are you using for software?" And they said Xactimate. I'm like, "Great," because
Done.
everything is off. The prices are so high that I can get it fixed and then cover my deductible and
Yep.
everything's perfect. But here, I just want fair pricing. I want the guy that does the work for me to get paid fairly, but not crazy. And so I've always I have this thing. It's like 5 or 6 pages long of the top 120 things that are in every house, and I use it as a benchmark, and I have
That's
to keep
great.
adjusting it to what's fair, even different markets. But a lot of our markets, Texas and Atlanta, a little bit of Nashville, they're all kind of the same. I mean, a flush mount is going to cost the same in all those, but a few things are different. Roofing, labor, but roofing shingles are all the same, But I have this, and so then I did a test thing with these, and 90% of their pricing is really cool. So my goal is that I use this company. They're very affordable, and we're right now building our whole new platform, our own platform. We were using a thing called Podio, but now we have an IT department that has developed the whole thing. So I'm going to go to where I'm going to have a third party walk the house for me, some that I've trained, and they know my scope and my specs and standards, and then I will get the bid back, and then I'll send it out to 2 or 3 GCs and say, I have this house, can you do it? And it's good, fair pricing, because pricing is all over the place.
Well, it's the labor. To your point, we deal with the same stuff. The product I'm going to sell you, American Homes for Rent, Progress, if I'm buying it from MSI, Shar, Mohawk, the cost is the same, right? There might be some advantages if you're bigger because they get some rebates and things like that. But if I'm selling you plank in Atlanta, Texas, or Phoenix, the plank's going to cost me the same, other than some freight
Right.
issues. It's the labor in those markets, and being connected to that labor market is critical. And pricing it out based on each market is what matters. And that and with labor, it does change a little bit. It can ebb and flow with what's happening. Currently with everything going on with immigration and some of the other ICE crackdowns and stuff, it's got the market a tiny bit wobbly. So you're having a hard time getting guys to drive, and I'll use an example in Florida. They don't want to drive from Tampa to Orlando because of that freeway between the two. there's a lot of activity and they're getting pulled over and they're like, I don't want to disappear. So we
Right.
can't get guys to drive down there. But if they're in Orlando, they'll do the work. So if
Mhm.
we got a guy that wants to drive, we got to pay him more. And, and eventually that's going to get passed on to the customer. But having your pulse on the labor side, which you do, is key because,
Mhm.
and what I like you as a vendor on this call, and Pat's a vendor, but not in this world. I love that you are saying fair market value. We just want
Well,
you to understand this is what it costs us to do it. This is what I'm going to go pay the guys and girls. I'm going to put a mark on it, 20%, and pass it to you. And if you can live at that and I can live at that, we can get business done.
I think the biggest value that I bring to ILE is my relationships.
It's huge.
And
You've
I
said it many times already on this call, and I was going to highlight it, but you are that guy that
uh,
prioritizes those relationships, and it shows in who works for you.
yeah, and I just think it's the most important thing that you can do. That long-term relationship, especially in the industry that we're in, where there's a lot of people that don't understand our pricing. Uh, I am a good customer. I like to treat, well, I hate to use the word vendor, but I call them like partners, like construction partners. I think they need to be treated as I would treat a customer. I have a couple different customers. I have a tenant who's kind of the customer because that's how you work backwards from the tenant. I mean, nothing happens unless we have a tenant in place,
Paying
right? But
rent.
then I have the partners that help me create the product, and then of course the big important customer is the investor, right? And so we have to buy right and we have to operate right, you know. And so, but what I've learned in this business over all the years is I'll go to an IMN and it's like going to a reunion, and you should never even consider burning a bridge in this business
Right.
because everybody knows everybody. And
100%.
it's just if
And they
if
all
I don't
talk.
like
Everybody spills the tea.
I
So
really think if I don't like somebody, you have no idea who I don't like.
that's awesome.
I want, you know, and usually I don't like them and because I guess somewhere along the line they don't have the same philosophy as me or whatever. But I mean, I feel like I'm
I
friends
I think that's how
with
life
everybody.
works, Scott. Like,
Yeah.
like with all due respect, um, I find it extremely difficult to see people of polar opposites from a political perspective, if they've got completely polar opposite political views, to sit down and break bread and act like nothing divides them. You know what I mean? I think there's got to be some form of like a 60 or 70% overlap in morals, beliefs, and
Of
fundamental
course.
perception of
Of
life. You know what I
course.
mean? Like think this is how life works. And then when we come across individuals that we all believe something similar or on the same page, it just makes the business transaction easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I think
and to your point, Scott, right? Like that relationship is critical. You could squeeze your vendors for another 5% profit on your homes, but what's that going to do to them down the line? What are they going to have to do to their labor force to then, take a little bit out of their pocket? And are you going to get poor service from that? It's a ripple effect and it's a one for one. And, understanding what your margins need to be and what you need to make for your business and allowing your vendors to make what they need to make, it's palms up, transparent. You'd said it before, line by line. Like one of the things we do in our business as a contractor and on the flooring side, we're transparent. If we're putting in a piece of trim, tile labor, carpet labor, it's line item, and you can see what everything costs. So if you have a question, I can tell you why we're charging that. If you've got some market feedback that says, hey, in Atlanta, we're paying, $1.25 instead of $1.50, and we do it all day long, that helps me because maybe my guys are, not sharpening their pencil as much. And so having that partnership and that feedback to get the job done together is what it's about. That's what this industry, that's the strength of the SFR industry, are these partnerships and sharing best practices.
yeah, well, that's why I was interested in this pricing software because sometimes I get an argument with my GC that's doing the turn of the rehab, and he's like, "Man, I can't do it for that price." I'm like, "Well, why?" And then because he said because that's what my guy's turning. I go, "Well, you really have to look past that sometimes because I think your guy is charging you too much because I want to have this data so that I can say, look, I'm not just making up a head like, hey, $12 sounds good." I have this company who has done a lot of, put a lot of money into a type of software that can go out and find, hey, this is the going rate. So if you have a guy that's overcharging you, and then in turn you're overcharging me,
That's not
I
my
think
problem.
yeah. Well, I think it is my problem because I want to use him, and I
Yeah.
want him, but I feel like now I'm giving him a tool to take his guy and go, hey, why are you so expensive?
Yeah, why is
You
this
were helping
price?
him out essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's everything I do. I want to help them because I just want to help myself. And by helping them, it makes my life easier and getting prices squared away up front. And then if there is a price, I just say, well, explain it to me. Like, what are you paying in this? And
Yeah, tell me
and then
why is it that? You said it a little bit ago too. You make your vendors better by this process, and I agree with that. I've got some great vendor partners. Sorry, customers. AMH, I'll use
Mhm.
an example. I love them. Been doing their work for 8 or 9 years at different capacities, and they have made me better as a contractor because they share that market data. They don't just say, "Hey, what's your price? Oh, you missed it. You got to lower it." They will come back and say, of all the people in your market, this is what we're seeing, and here's what the trends are. They let me work through that with them and share what's
I
appropriate.
love that.
And I've had to elevate my game to stay competitive, but also very fair. And that,
Yes.
they're building better contractors for them, just like you are for you, because that's integral for your business.
Mm-hmm. No, that's the only way it works. If you have to, everybody has to be able to make their margins, and
Yeah.
they have to understand it's a volume thing.
Usually when you hear from a contractor that their price is high, it's because they just bought a brand new truck, or, like, wait, why is that price so
They
high?
do got
Oh, I
some
forgot to
nice.
tell you, I bought a condo in Rocky Point, Mexico.
The
Oh,
trucks are what kills me though. Like the trucks that I'm like $150,000 trucks. I mean, like, wow, the trucks have gone out of control
oh, it's
with the
stupid.
pricing of trucks.
It's crazy, like, even used trucks, and you see these guys. My favorite contractors, we've got them all, right? We've got, I think between our 2 companies, we have several thousand, 1099 contractors out there, guys, men and women installing for us every day. And you can see the ones that pull up in the beat up old vans. Their tags are good, their tires are good, their racks are solid, but the vans are because they've been running them into
Getting
the
everywhere.
ground. And they're the ones that are making the real money because they're rat holing that
They're
money and taking
hustling.
care of it. And the owner of my company, David Stoffel, started, basically as chucking a truck in his company and just started doing it himself, and then hired a guy and and the guy didn't have a truck. So David went out and bought him a truck for cash so he could get started. That installer still works for us and has that same truck
Wow.
Yeah.
and pulls up in that truck. And David, and this is a big deal. This is 13 or 14 years ago, and he's one of our major installers, and they're friends, but he still uses that same truck because he's just taking care of it, and made it work for him. And yeah, those are the guys that get the value of money.
Yep.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to wrap this up. It is a 1 hour into it. I want to respect everyone's time. Scott, man, thank you so much for jumping on this episode of Between Two Hats. It was an absolute pleasure having you on this episode, man.
Well, thanks. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for inviting me. Enjoyed
you're
it.
great, brother. We want to get you back, and
Well, then, yeah, I want to come back and not talk about the SFR industry.
yeah, let's
Talk about-
talk about your ranch and some fun stuff. And
We
here's what
didn't
Pat
even
loves to do.
touch the ranch. I know, dude.
He'll
Well, the
he'll
hat, I
he'll
mean,
get you all
have a
comfortable, and
good
then he'll
hat
ask you some
collection.
hard question that you're like, "Uh-oh, is my job on the line by answering this one?" And then you have to
Yeah, I have
decide.
to be.
You can do
Yeah,
that to your face.
I gotta be professional.
Yeah, politically correct, but he'll get you.
Yeah.
That'll get you.
No, I'll squeeze. Yeah, all right. Well, so I'll come and all of a sudden I'll punch you with a Biden, and then maybe a Trump to the right. Like we'll just all come. You won't see it coming, right? So I'm like that. But all right, I appreciate it, the listeners. Thank you so much. We'll be back with another episode very soon. God bless and take care.
Thanks, guys.